Yeah, good afternoon to all of you once again for this session. And for this session, proudly I can say that we have a great speaker, Professor W.C. Singh sir. And he is the Registrar of Manipur Central University and Professor of Management in the Manipur University. And I am so thankful to Professor W.C. Singh sir. Despite his very busy schedule and so many meetings, he has accepted our request to deliver the lecture. And before joining Manipur University, Professor W.C. Singh sir is the founder member of the Department of Management, Mizoram University. And in the establishing the Department of Management, Mizoram University, he worked a lot and he guided me also. And I am so thankful for that. Sir always guide us. Professor W.C. Singh, sir, is a great academician and great academic leader also. He started so many academic organizations. He is the founder general secretary of NEMA, Northeastern Management Association. Professor W.C. Singh, sir, have a wide experience of working in the different states. He worked in the Mata Vaishno Devi University. He worked in the Lucknow. And not only in India, he worked in the foreign countries and delivered a large number of lectures there. Proudly, I can say that he is a very studious student, also completed his education from Manipur University and IIM Ahmedabad. And we are so proud that Professor W.C. Singh sir has accepted our request to deliver the lecture. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Amit. And it's my pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. But because of hectic schedule, I'm not able to devote time. Let's see how I will do justice to our learned participants. And that is the only worry in my mind. This FDP program which you have initiated in your department is really very good initiative during this COVID-19 itself. And I really convey my warm congratulations and regards for that because you're trying to just benefit a large number of our faculty colleagues in the field of management, and it's really a very good initiative. In fact, the topic which you have given for this afternoon, this organizational strategy, it's something which is really very, very interesting. And when we talk about organizational strategy, I was so worried as to what really this topic carries, in fact, because the strategy itself is a very wide area, and we basically do not know what is there in this organizational strategy. We talk about strategic planning, we talk about strategic management, we talk about different other aspects. But the organizational strategy as such is a new area and a new topic basically. But this afternoon, I will not discuss too much on what is there in this organizational strategy. I will discuss more on what strategy is and what is there in strategy, and why this is very important for an organization. And at that aspect, I would like to focus on this afternoon. Let us see how our learned faculty colleagues who are participating in this will say on this particular discussion session. And I basically need more feedback from them. I may not get all those feedback right now, but whatever feedback they have, I would like to request you to kindly collect it and forward it to me, because I myself would like to update more on this very topic for future reference. So let me share the slides with our participants, and we will move on on the basis of that. I believe all our participants are able to listen what I'm talking. It's audible. Is it audible?
Yes, sir, it is audible.
Okay. So now let me share the screen, and then accordingly we will continue. Yeah, we'll be discussing now on this organizational strategy. Let us see what is there in this organizational strategy, and what basically I would like you to focus out here. In fact, this particular evening will be focusing on two basic areas. One is what strategy mean, and the other one is what are the elements of strategy. This will be the main focus, and what else we can integrate in this, we will see accordingly. So strategy for every organization is really a must, and without a strategy in an organization, it will not be in a position to function well, and without strategy, organization will not be able to exist. This is very true, and that is why we'll be talking about strategy and a strategy and a strategy. But when we say strategy, we are much more confused what basically strategy mean to all of us. At the same time, the second question that comes in the mind of all of us is that, so are we really sure that we have a strategy for our organization? This is again the second very important question. Because as per my understanding, people have lots of misconception about what really a strategy is. And again, the same question we can ask to ourselves that, say, do we have a clear-cut strategy for our own organization, which we all are associating and working with? This is again another very important, very question which we can ask. So when we see an organization has functions, organization has team members, organization has processes, organization will have infrastructure, organization will have partners, and say all these functions, partners, infrastructure, team members, processes, all of them are basically included when we talk about the organizational strategy. But I will not focus here too much on what organizational strategy is. I'll be focusing rather on what the strategy is. This is what I'm going to do now with all our learned friends. So we have seen that most of the researchers had very hard thinking about strategy. So they have provided, what we call as abundance of framework for analyzing strategic situations. But whatever they do, whatever work they do, there's a missing link. The missing link is that there is no such proper guidance as to what the product of these tools would be, or what exactly constitute strategy which we're talking about today. So when we say that, okay, strategy, it has become a catch-all term used to mean whatever one wants to mean. Our sales strategy, then marketing strategy, pricing strategy, then production strategy, recruitment logics and recruitment strategy, and so on and so on. And we keep on talking whatever we have in our mind, and all these things are basically integrated mainly to strategy whenever we say and we do something in our own organization. But are we really sure that whatever we think and whatever we plan and whatever we do are really a strategy? That is one of the greatest confusion. So however strategies, whether they are, suppose a vice chancellor or a registrar or CEO, CFO, president, or even entrepreneur, or any sort of leader, so must have a strategy. So in that strategy, which they should have, they will have an integrated overarching concept of how the organizations of business will achieve its objective. So this is the simple meaning of what basically a strategy is. So a strategy should be an integrated, overarching concept of how the organizations will achieve its objective. So this is what the strategy is in the simplest form. And if we understand this in the simplest form, then the confusion will be much lesser. So, but when we talk about strategy, we should be able to position strategy at a very right place in our mind when we start functioning for the organization. Let us see how and what will be the right place for putting and inserting and placing strategy. And here, when we try to put strategy in the right place, strategy falls here somewhere in the middle. And it talks about the mission. We talk about mission for the organization. We talk about objective of the organization. Then we talk about the strategy, which we have already discussed as the central, integrated, externally oriented concept of how we will achieve our objective. So this is the strategy. So strategy, before making a strategy, there will be a mission for the organization. And there may be a vision for the organization also. And then we have an objective, then we will have a strategy. The strategy, the way we frame the strategy is basically, depends on what do we analyze for setting and creating this strategy. Something like we talk about industry analysis, we talk about customer and the marketplace trend. We are supposed to understand the competitors' scenario. We are supposed to assess the internal strength and weaknesses. We are supposed to analyze the opportunities around, and all these things will be used at the time of setting the strategy. But at the same time, when we establish a mission and when we identify the vision, at the same time setting objectives too, the strategy is extremely important at that point of time also. And when we have a mission, we have an objective, and we set a strategy after analyzing the external environmental forces, then we are also connecting this strategy to the supporting organizational arrangement, structure, the reward system, process, people, then functional policies and profiles, and many other activities which we are going to do in the organization. All these things will influence the strategy. All these things will influence the strategy, and the strategy also in reverse influence all of them. But so when we talk about the mission of the organization, mission, the way we have set the mission, the vision which we have identified, the objectives we have identified, and the plan to attain, all these things are also set in accordance to the external environment and its surrounding opportunities and whatnot. So ultimately, who precedes what? And this is a very difficult thing to identify very clearly here when you talk about strategy in place. But from the slides, it is seen that organizations' missions and objectives stands apart from strategy. So for example, Suzuki Motors, it has the objective of being #1 in the market in terms of sales, the service delivery, drives the strategy, but is not the strategy in itself, nor would the objective of reaching a particular revenue target be part of strategy. So one thing here is to just see, when we talk about mission and objectives, then we talk about external environmental analysis, we talk about organizational systems inside. These things are not basically part of strategy. These are something that stands apart from strategy. So the Maruti Suzuki or Suzuki Motors objective of being #1 in the market in terms of sales and service delivery, and it drives, and that basically drives the strategy. But that itself is not the strategy in itself. So the wanting obviously being #1 in terms of sales and service delivery, that is going to drive the strategy which we are going to set. But one thing of being #1 and the best, one thing of being the best performer, that itself is not a strategy. So nor would the objective of reaching a particular revenue target be part of strategy. So We talk about, see, I should be number one in the market, and say we should deliver or earn this much revenue. They're all basically not part of the strategy. The strategy remains somewhere else. So similarly, because strategy addresses how organizations intend to engage its environment, choices about internal organizational arrangements are not a strategy. Say suppose when we talk about internal organizational arrangements, we talk about, say suppose, leave rules, the compensation policy, training programs, management information system, and an e-office which we would like to implement. These are not, say, strategy. These are critically important choices, basically, which would reinforce and support a strategy, but in reality, they are not a strategy in itself. So when we try to understand and identify strategy, we basically are putting all these things. Leave rules are also making a part of strategy. Internal organizational arrangements, we are making a strategy. We are adding it in the study of the strategy. Then the revenue targets, we are putting it in a strategy. Then all these things we put in the strategy bucket. Then the essential concept of the strategy comes to mean nothing. And this is what we basically feel from the study of some of the renowned authors and after listening to some of the great persons in the world. So strategy stands somewhere, and these things stands somewhere. So keeping in shape all these aspects in mind, we would like then to understand what are the elements of strategy. We said that leave rules cannot be a part of strategy. We said that compensation policy cannot be a strategy. We said that mission is different from strategy, and objectives are different from strategy. That we talk about, say, this is not a part of strategy, that is not a part of strategy. We should not talk all about it, catch all everything. That cannot be strategy. Then, what are the elements of strategy? In fact, this is really something which we need to ponder. So when we say elements of strategy, there are 5 core elements of strategy, and I will just highlight these 5 core elements of strategy. The first element of strategy is arenas. Arenas talk, say something like, where will we be active? And with how much emphasis, where we will be active. And arena talks all about this. So arena is, say, one of the core elements of strategy. The second very important element of strategy is the vehicle. How will we get there? This is the second element. The third element out here is differentiator. Differentiators talks about how will we win in the marketplace. Differentiator talks about this. Next, you see the fourth element is what we call as staging. Staging talks about what will be our speed and a sequence of moves for achieving what we have. And the fourth objective, the fifth objective is what we call as the economic logic. Economic logic talks about how will we obtain our return on our logic. So these are the 5 core elements of strategy. Now let us understand much better what is there in these arenas. Let us see arena. The most fundamental choice the strategists make is that of the where or in what arenas the organization will be active. So this is akin to the question Peter Drucker posed once, what business will we be in? But what business will we be in is something which is quite generalistic, and it's quite general out here. But in the case of the arenas, it talks something much more than this. Okay, so the arenas will be much deeper than what simply we identify and understand what business will we be in. So this is generalities concept of Peter Drucker talks something about what business we will be in, and it's much more of the mission but not purely of, say, arenas, which is basically the first, the core component of the elements of strategy. So then what is there in this arenas, and say how this is going to segregate from generalities? Let us see in arenas. Arenas will talk about something which is specific as possible. We talk about which product categories, which market segment, which geographical areas, which core technologies, which sort of value creation stage are we going to see to take off. Okay, this is what is the focus. So arenas will talk which product category. Okay, so the complete detailing is very much required in this particular concept when you talk about arenas with relation to the core element of strategy. Which market segment? Is it European market segment or a market? Okay, only say people whose income is more than say $5,000 per month say are buying. Which geographical area and which core technology and what sort of value creation stage is used, and that is detailing out here when you talk about arenas. Let us see the explanation. So take an example. Company intends to use T-cell receptor technology to develop both diagnostic and therapeutic products for battling a certain class of cancer. It intends to keep control over product development activities, but to outsource manufacturing and a major part of the clinical testing processes required for regulatory approval. The company targets the US and the European market and its geographical scope, as its geographical scope. So see this statement, and in this statement, the product is very, very specific. It talks about the R&D, it talks about product development, and it is talking about complete markets specific. The geography is very, very specific. Market segment itself is specific. Okay, so the market segment, how it is specifying out here, it talks about the treatment of a particular type of cancer. So the market itself is quite specific. The geography itself is quite specific. The product itself is really very, very specific. The technology which is going to use for that is really, really specific. So when arenas talk, and arenas as a part of the core element of strategy talks something which is really very, very specific. And that is the very important thing out here. Now let's see the second core element, which we are talking about the vehicles. When we say vehicle, how to get into the identified arenas is what we really mean when we talk about the vehicle. So how to get in the identified arenas means the means for attaining the needed presence in that particular product category or market segment or geographic area or the value creation stage should be a deliberate strategic choice. And a deliberate strategic choice for entering into that specified arena is what we call as vehicle. So for example, when you talk about arena talks about whether we will enter, when we talk about vehicle, we'll talk about something like, how will we go to that, how will we reach to that identified arena? Shall we go through organic way of entering to this arena? Okay, shall we go for the internal product development, or are we going to use some other vehicles like joint ventures, mergers, acquisition, licensing, greenfield startup, franchising, etc. So with what means are you going to target this arena, and how are we going to enter in this arena, and how are we going to attain the objective which we have identified in that specific arena? And it's very much talking about the market entry strategy. And if some of our friends are teaching marketing or international business, and they will study much more all about this market entry strategies. So the market entry strategies are basically targeting by this vehicle. So this is a vehicle, and the vehicle selection and vehicle identification should be purely a deliberate strategic choice. Otherwise, say the element which we have identified as number one, this arena, it will never be able to say attain. This is the thing. So failure to explicitly consider and articulate the intended expansion vehicle can result in the hoped for entries being seriously delayed or costly or also stalled. So that is again very, very important here. So once this is not a deliberate strategic choice and a strategic attempt, then there will be great failure in the vehicle selection, and then that will basically stall the whole system, and we are going to seriously delay the whole process, and the dream will remain just like a dream that may not be able to fulfill. But when we talk about the vehicle selection is also basically influenced by the experienced manpower and the determination level and the courage level and skill level and experience level of the people who are working in the organization also. If the CEO is strong enough and confident enough, again, the system is very powerful and very, very supportive, and the power of the resilience of the manpower in the organization are much higher, then the vehicle selection will be much better. This is also another very important perspective out here when you talk about the vehicle. Now let us see the next important element, and the next important element is what we call as differentiators. So what is there in these differentiators? Strategies should specify not only arenas in the vehicle, but also how the organization will win in the marketplace is decided basically by the differentiators. So differentiators talk about how will we win in the marketplace. We are supposed to win in the marketplace because of our power of differentiating from others. How big successful companies and organizations are able to differentiate themselves from the rest of the companies and the rest of the people and the market. And just because of that, they have their own presence still is very strong in the marketplace. So the differentiator is something which is extremely important. So for that purpose, executives requires upfront conscious choice about which weapons will be assembled, honed, and deployed to beat the competitors in the fight for customers, in the fight for revenues, in the fight for profit, in the fight for brand and image and values. And so that is something which is very, very important at this juncture. So here, differentiator will bring success in the marketplace, and identifying differentiators is extremely an important element of strategy making and a strategy itself. So the winning is basically the result of the differentiators. And here, winning is not a simple thing. It is completely a deliberate choice of the executives, of the leaders, of the managers. So the winning is, suppose, a layman's job, then the organization will not be able to survive and sustain longer. So winning is a deliberate choice, then obviously the organization will live longer, and it will be able to retain its own position very well. And at the same time, it is hard-earned strategic positioning. So differentiators are basically hard-earned strategic positioning. And suppose take an example of the philosophy of Honda automobiles. People would like to see Honda cars and Honda automobiles, and the people feel that they may be less expensive and better cars than Honda, but many still believe that there is no better for value money than Honda. And how that philosophy has already been built in the mind of some people. So that philosophy, the way that has ingrained in the minds of the customers is just because of the hard-earned strategic positioning the organization and its people have done in the society and to the customers. Indigo attracts and retains flyers by offering the lowest possible fare, extraordinary on-time reliability, and no cancellation of flight. This is the feel of the flyers. And when people have this feel of flyers, and the feel of the flyers, all about Indigo itself is a differentiator of the organization from the rest of the competitors in the marketplace. Godrej Furniture in quality, Suzuki Motors in servicing, Geo Network in low cost, Havels in toiletries, Harvard Business School for management education, IKEA for reliable quality. And these are all just something which we have identified with relation to differentiators. And so these differentiators and building these differentiators and understanding these differentiators and identifying these differentiators and having a deliberate choice and the effort for that itself is the third very, very important what we call as elements of strategy. So the first one is we talk about arena, and the second one is we talk about the vehicle. The third is we talk about this differentiator. So differentiator is something which is very, very critical for making a strategy. So the strategy making and the strategy identification and the strategy defining a strategy should have the component of these differentiators. Otherwise, the strategy will not be a good strategy. Let's see next one. Next one is what we call as staging. Staging is all about what we call as how do the executives plan for achieving or attaining this arena, this vehicle, and these differentiators. So the choice of arena, the choice of vehicles, and choice of the differentiators constitute what might be called a substance of a strategy, the substance of a strategy. So in a strategy, what are the things included in a strategy? Strategy includes the arena, strategy includes the vehicle, strategy includes the differentiators. And these are actually the core substance of a strategy. And what executives plan to do. But the substance cries out for a decision on fourth element, that is staging. That means the substance in a strategy will only be achievable with the right staging. So here, the staging means the speed and the sequence of measured moves to take in order to heighten the likelihood of success in that particular strategy. So one part is all about the substance of a strategy. The substance of a strategy will be achieved only through this staging. The staging talks about the speed, it talks about the sequence of measured moves. We as an executive and we as a leader, we as a manager are supposed to take up. So of course, there is no universally superior sequence of success, and it's purely on a judgment of the strategist. But whatever be the case, staging is really something very, very important. And without that, the substance of strategy which we have identified in arena, in vehicle, in differentiators will never have any concrete meaning. So the decision about staging can be driven by a number of factors. One we talk about is resource. It is funding and staffing, suppose. Urgency. Some elements of strategy may face brief window of opportunities. The achievements of credibility or threshold in some arenas, vehicles or say, differentiators may be critically important for attracting customers and resources needed for the strategy. And the fourth factor is the pursuit of early win. So if the staging is not, say, decided, the pursuit of early win, this will not actually take place. Because if we cannot actually catch the opportunities, and opportunities may keep coming, but some opportunities may not, or that same level of opportunity and the same kind of opportunity may not, say, really emerge, say, in near future. So the window period of getting these opportunities for, say, entering in a specific, say, geographical area, for launching a specific kind of product, for introducing a new feature, and for offering, say, something, and for getting, say, an agreement about, say, franchise and a licensing and a takeover and a merger. All these things may not, say, remain all the time in the market. So the right timing, choosing the right timing for, say, arresting these opportunities are really something which is very, very important for the strategies for making a win in the organization. So there needs to be a very strong, say, component of, say, tactfulness and, say, the power to say, power to what we call as foresee the things really in advance, and that power and that necessity comes here. So when we talk about, say, the staging, the staging is really something very, very important, and the substance of strategy will be brought, say, meaningful and live with the help of this, the fourth element, what we call as staging. Friends, let us see what is there in this economic logic. When we say economic logic, it will talk about the clear idea of how profits will be generated. It is not going to talk just some profit, but profit above the organization's cost of capital. And that is something which is very, very important. And a profit, not just for the sake of profit, profit that can make the organization consistent, sustainable, and ability to, say, have its own dignified, say, place in the market. That is something very, very important. So when we say economic logic, it is not enough to vaguely count on having revenues that are above cost, unless there is a compelling basis for it. Customers and the competitors won't let it happen. So the competitors and the customers, they are also strong enough. If you have a vague idea of, say, generating a lump sum profit, then the customers and the competitors will not make it happen. So economic logic and generating profit, that should be a deliberate choice for the strategists when they or to be make a strategy and understand a strategy. So it is not enough to prepare a checklist of reasons why customers will pay a higher price for our product or service. Along with this long list of reasons for paying a high price by the customers, there is also a need for reasons why your cost is lower than your competitors' cost. And that is also, very much required to understand at this point of time. So what to add and what to drop as per the requirement of the market, and the ability to distinguish underlying details from just details will be really important for attaining this particular economic logic. And that is really very important to understand very deeply when we talk about strategy. So economic logic talks about, suppose, lowest cost through scale advantage. Scale advantage in terms of global, regional, and individual store level, say, advantage. At the store level, say, advantage. At the regional level, advantage. At the global level, say, advantage. Low cost and this is scale advantage. We talk about the lowest cost through scope and replication advantage. Technology we use, the scope which we have at present, that should have, the sort of the advantage for all of us when we talk about economic logic and its advantage. We talk about the premium price advantage. The premium price due to what? Due to unmatched service. We're charging the premium price because the service we deliver is not comparable or unmatched by other competitors. So the providing customers global solution itself is something which is very, very important, which we can focus on when we talk about the charging premium price from the customers for such type of unmatched service. Premium price due to leading edge technology, and that is also something which we can actually think of. We are paying the premium price, a higher price, just because the technology which we use in this particular product or the item is something unique. That is also one of the very important aspects when you talk about the strategy. Premium price due to leading product feature. When you talk about the leading product feature, I was just referring in the beginning all about the IKEA's product and the product designs which they have. And they are one of the world-known product features which they have. And this itself, and just because of that, the premium product feature, and the customers are not miser enough and resistant enough to spend money. So this is also one of the very important component out here. Let's see. The concluding remark out here is that I'm not going to talk very lengthy thing, and at the same time, it will be quite boring for all of you, because the topic itself is little dry. And this could have been done mainly in the physical classroom, and then I could have done something related to cases, and through cases we should be able to make out how nicely the strategies are framed and identified and understood. That we could have done. But since this is a virtual mode, and since I also could not find sufficient time, just trying to make it a little short. The concluding remark here in this case, our purpose of this session is to identify what really constitutes a strategy. The reason being, executives have lost track of what it means to engage in the art of general, and so need to counter the recent catch-all fragment of the strategy concept, and to remind strategists that orchestrated holism in their charts. Otherwise, all these general things we ended in strategy making and in understanding strategy, and that really destroy the real importance of strategy and its meaning. And when we say the strategy, how good our strategy is, and is the strategy really the quality strategy? And for that purpose, there is a need for testing of this quality of strategy. When we say the quality of strategy, what may be included in this strategy, that itself is something which we can basically think of. Here, when we say the quality of our strategy, there are 6 key evaluation criteria for identifying and measuring the quality of strategy. The first key evaluation criteria is something like, does our strategy fit with what's going on in the environment? So the first criteria for evaluating our strategy is, does our strategy fit with what's going on in the environment? So it talks about, is there healthy profit potential where we are headed? Does our strategy align with key success factors of our chosen environment? So these 2 things are something which we really need to understand. So the healthy profit potentials are there in that direction, which we are trying to identify our arena or not. That is one which we need to ponder very well at the time of setting the strategy. The second is, does our strategy align with key success factors of our chosen environment? So, key success factors of the chosen environment. What should be the key success factors of the chosen environment? Environment is sometimes quite turbulent, and say suppose very uncertain environment, and then the key success factors are basically aligning with that sort of environment. Key success factors may be the foundations of the organization. What we mean, the support system of the organization. It shall be strong enough for us to sustain that turbulent environment or not. And these are something which we need to define very well when you talk about the evaluation criteria. The second evaluation criteria talks about, does our strategy exploit our key resources? What does it mean? With our particular mix of resources, does the strategy give us a good to start on competitors? Can we pursue this strategy more economically than competitors? So the strategy should be able to exploit the key resources. By utilizing these key resources, will we be in a position to supply our things or serve the people in a much more economical manner than our competitors? And that is something which we need to ask to ourselves. The third key evaluation criteria talks about, will our envisioned differentiators be sustainable? Okay, so we talk about differentiators, and we may say that ours is the most reliable at the time of identifying the differentiators. This reliability will be a sustainable reliability. Okay, will competitors have difficulty in matching us all the time or for a longer period of time? Are we really in a position to upgrade our scale and power of sustainability and power of differentiating from others more and more? And that we need to explicitly identify the power of the innovation, the regimen which is basically deployed for bringing innovation and opportunity creation, how strong enough they are, how consistent they are, and how courageous they are, and all these things are also something which is really very important to evaluate when we talk about the quality of the strategy. The fifth element, the fourth element here, basically talks about, are the elements of our strategy internally consistent? It's something like, have we met choices of arenas, vehicles, differentiators, staging, and economic logic? So really we have made a really deliberate choice in all these stages: arenas, vehicles, differentiators, staging, and economic logic. And if the choices are not deliberate enough, then there will be no internal consistency in the strategy which we have identified. So unless whenever after having a thorough and deliberate choice, even since the organization is passing through a really ambiguous and complex and turbulent environment, these issues are changing so fast, and the organization should be resilient enough to catch up in all these levels and all these uncertain situations. And that is what we're talking about, how internally consistent our strategy is, and do they fit and mutually reinforce each other. And that is also, again, something which is really very important. Then the fifth criteria talks about, do we have enough resources to pursue this strategy? Enough resources in terms of money, managerial time, talent, and other capabilities to do all, say, what we have, say, envisioned. And it is really very important. The sources of money, the ability to devote and spend time, and manpower, and their talents and skills and experience. All these things are also something which we cannot, say, neglect at the time of, say, conceiving a very solid strategy. The strategy should be supported by all these things. Otherwise, strategy will not be, say, good. So the concept of, say, resource-based strategy, this is basically talking about the resource-based strategy concept. Sometimes we talk about the opportunity-based strategic concept and this resource-based strategy concept. And here, in terms of resource, so we're talking about money, time, then talent, and all other capabilities, which is basically inbuilt in the system itself. How strong enough we are in this inbuilt system and infrastructure and processes. That is again very important. The confidence level of the people are matching with the kind of strategy which we are setting and conceiving. That is again, it's very important. Sixth, say, evaluation criteria talks about, is our strategy implementable? So here we talk about, will our, say, key constituencies allow us to pursue these strategies? Can our organization make it through the transition? Are we and our management team able and willing to lead the required changes? So the willingness of the organization, ability to catch up and sustain to all sort of transitions. This is again another aspect which we are supposed to evaluate by the time we talk about good strategy. And so these are some issues which I would like to put up here, and I feel they are really very, very important. Friends, ultimately, what I would like to say that strategy is not primarily about planning. It's about intentional, informed, and integrated choices which we are going to make, and it is something which is purely deliberate. And we can recall a statement which was given by Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahlad. Leadership cannot be planned, but neither can it happen without a grand and well-considered aspiration. And the same happens with the concept of strategy. And a strategy, I told you repeatedly, and this is a deliberate choice. And without that, strategy cannot be a consistent and sustainable and successful strategy. The strategy diamond, which we have just shown, basically discuss many other things which we articulate about the organization's aspiration. And this strategic diamond tells us a lot of the other great things. And this strategic diamond we should always keep in mind, because all other things which we are going to move, all about the expansion, all about catching a new market and entering a new arena, and how will we build our brand image, and what speed we are supposed to take up, and what is the cost of capital and returns ultimately. All these things will be integrated when we talk about making a concrete strategy. And so this particular topic basically could have been done a little more in a better way if I have concentrated something in relation to the strategy of some specific organizations. I was talking about the IKEA, then we could have done some organizational strategy of a great corporate house or educational institution. And if the discussions were done in that way, it could have been much better. But yes, of course, if time permits, we will do it sometime in future. And all of our friends who are connected in this particular platform, we will meet again in some other platform, and let's see. I ultimately wish our coordinator, Dr. Amit, to kindly organize one more such program. If physical presence and such type of arrangement is possible, then that could be very good. And I would love to share my own other experiences too, in relation to strategy and business policy. Thank you all of you. I have winded up a little early, and I permit to excuse for that. And if some other considerations are there, we will speak for 4 or 5 minutes as introduction.
Thank you so much for your very valuable, informative, and dynamic, I can say dynamic presentation. And I understand you how busy you are, but still you had given me the time. And we can't take too much responses from the participants because you have to go for the another meetings. But at least 1-2 feedback we can take from the participants. And after that, we will wind up. Yes. 1-2 feedback from participants. They are writing so many in chat box, ki wonderful lecture. Yes.
It's a very nice presentation you have given it today. I am really obliged to listen your wonderful presentation, and I'm really thankful for the institute for the wonderful opportunity we all participants could have today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavita ma'am.
I'm really thankful to you for such a nice presentation with the present topic and with the present conditions you had highlighted in a very nice way.
Yeah, one more feedback we can take.
Namaste, Singh sir.
Namaste, ma'am.
Namaste.
That was a very good presentation, sir, on the organizational strategy. It was a very informative session also. In a short period of time, you had tried to, in spite of your schedule, you had tried to give a meaningful approach and you had tried to deliver it, sir. We were able to take a lot of inputs. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. For your
I would finally love to invite all our dignified participants to our university once lockdown is lifted, and let's pray for that. And in fact, we have Northeastern Management Association and Professor Shashi Kumar of Mizoram University. He himself is a vice president. And I request all of you to kindly log on to the NEMA website. You see nemaindia.org. This is Northeastern Management Association. And we basically plan conference for this year at Mandalay, Myanmar in the month of December. But somehow, because of this pandemic situation, we are going to reschedule it. And please kindly link with us through that platform. And I request our Amit Kumar sir to kindly send us the list of the phone numbers, WhatsApp numbers of all our learned friends, so that we can link in the NEMA interaction group, and we will plan something very, very concrete, and a series of programs and publication activities we are going to take up, and please enroll to that. And let us see, we are going to organize various programs to many of these ASEAN countries and SAARC countries, and please associate with us. And we will keep on updating through website and through WhatsApp, different information in the events about NEMA. And I'm so thankful to Amit for kindly making me a part of this August body. Thank you once again. Have a good evening.
Thank you for joining to us. And for all the participants, by tomorrow morning or in tonight, I will send the invitation, this link for the test. An online simple test will be there. All of you can attend the test. We will meet again tomorrow, and tomorrow is the valedictory session in which Professor Prasen from Manipur University and Vice Chancellor from Tripura University is also willing to join, means he will join. So once again, thanks to all, and a special thanks to our learned professor, W.C. Singh sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.